Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and on the other end, also in a vest, I imagine it's hot in Germany as well, is Pascal Floor.
Yeah, not as hot as it is in the UK. I heard that there's a massive heat wave going on right now. One of my athletes, he was complaining about it. Shout out to James, that in his sleeping room or bedroom, it was like 27 degrees during the night, and then throughout the day it's 32 degrees, and I'm just like, holy shit, that is hot. And right now it's only unfortunately like 22 degrees, but it's lovely then to go outside. I can still go like this outside. Just hope that when I'm on holiday with my family at the Baltic Sea and also Northern Sea, we're going back and forth kind of, it's going to actually be a little bit better, because the predictions aren't, but I mean, it's a 14-day prediction and they are very, very unreliable overall. So really do hope that the summer is coming back during that time.
It's, for me, I don't mind it. I think I'd mind it way less if I wasn't wearing a weighted vest. Basically, the weighted vest just makes me hot.
You're always very sweaty underneath, right?
Yeah. If it wasn't this hot, I'd be all right, but I just am permanently at a warmer temperature with this on. So it's kind of like wearing a jacket.
Is it already kind of smelly?
The weird thing is, okay, I still have no smell from COVID, so I can't smell anything still. I have to like
just walking around.
I could stink.
Stink disgustingly. Like that. The very nasty, sweaty sensation that you're already able to taste. That's like vinegar, like the vinegar touch to it, right? I'm
trying to stay on top of cleanliness because of knowing that I could stink. Charlotte hasn't complained, so that's normally a good sign.
But she had COVID as well.
She did, but her smell's okay for sure.
All right.
And she had barely any symptoms. But I know my smell's awful because I don't know if you know like dog food smell, but it's some of the smelliest, horriblest smell. Like I just hate it. Whereas I can open Ada's dog food, shove my head in the bag, sniff in, and I'm just like, oh, there's something there, but I don't know. So
I find it disgusting when it comes to cat food. So our
similar,
neighbors,
probably.
They have a cat. Findus is its name. He's super cute, walking around and often also at our window. And in the wintertime, we were then asking them whether we can actually feed him because he's so often in our garden and stuff. So I actually went out and bought like 2 packages of cat food. And I did vividly remember what it was smelling like because, of course, as a kid and all that kind of stuff, right? And you open up that box or the can of whatever, and it's not lovely. It isn't. I mean,
so weirdly enough, I can't smell it. The thing I really miss is actually we got a Nespresso because our Tassimo broke. So just another pod machine thing. And like I was making it and Charlotte was like, oh, that smells so good. And I was just like, oh, I can't smell the nice coffee. This sucks.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. So, but on that news, I guess it's news. I don't want to speak too much about it because it's very controversial for some reason. Well, I guess for a good reason, maybe even because for you, you're not getting the second vaccine possibly, or at least, I don't know, it's kind of up in the air because you had potentially a reaction to it. We don't know at the moment. I guess it's an interesting subject, but yeah, I'm walking to get that vaccine today. Yeah. So that's possibly going to throw off my week of deload and kind of assessment of physique, I guess, is going to throw a spanner in the works to that. So I'm not too fussed about it because I've kind of come to the conclusion I'm not going to see huge changes in this period.
It's crazy that you're actually getting the second shot though.
Oh no, it's the first one.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because I have a friend who's also my barber since like 10 years. And he only got 1 shot of the vaccine because he had COVID back in October. And because of that, his immune system was already kind of, it acted like as if it's the second shot.
A booster,
and he doesn't require to actually get a second shot. So,
yeah, maybe I don't know. I've not been told anything like that. But yeah, it's just one of those where I'm like, at the end of the day, it seems like I'm going to need it to be able to travel. And I was just imagine if I qualify for World somehow and then I can't travel because I was like, I've got antibodies because I've had it. And it's like, I just need to go get that thing.
Yeah.
So
I've seen a very, very good thing over on YouTube from Sky News, where the moderator actually talked over lots of graphics, and they were very, very good and also very well represented by the moderator himself. It wasn't like dogmatic and stuff like that. And he very much clearly showed like the correlation between now the vaccinated situation, the curve, and also hospitalized people, and that in comparison to like in January time when the curves just like spiked up and also the hospitalized people spiked up as well alongside with the death rate, it's now kind of uncorrelated with another. There's a slight correlation, of course, both are going up, but because we have so many vaccinated people now, the incidence rate is just rising, but the hospitalized people are just like very, very low. Yeah. And most of the time it is just the population that hasn't been vaccinated as of yet. And I know that some people in the comment section, also our listeners, they don't want to get vaccinated. That is totally fine. And I'm not bringing it up so that people are now like, oh yeah, he's all like pro-vaccine, which I am. But at the same time, everyone should know
it's a choice.
It's their choice what they want to do. But it is kind of great to see, right, that there's kind of that situation unfolding, and I really do hope that it's not just like a dogmatic decision then once the incidence rates are spiking up again that we are going into another lockdown, because it's never a good idea to say this time is different, but this time maybe very much be different. And the reason as to why we got into those lockdowns, or the government said we are going into those lockdowns, were to not overwhelm the health system.
Yeah, it's what's happening here is, even like you said, even if people are getting it and they're vaccinated, the symptoms are way less, so they're not having to go to hospital. And for me, like the symptoms of me having COVID I didn't need to go to hospital for sure, but it wasn't very nice. So I know you could catch it again. So I kind of like to be able to not have as severe a response if possible. Yeah. So
it's so funny when people think that only because you're vaccinated you can't get it. It's like, do you even know how vaccines work? It's not that you're now running around and you're immune to it. Of course you can get it still, but the consequences are much, much less severe.
Yeah, it's kind of scary because I kind of refer it to like training nutrition. If you're just getting into it and it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where you're just getting into it, you think you know loads. And so you're posting all about it and you're posting all this information. And then the deeper you get into it, the more hopefully people realize they don't know. And I don't think many people are deep enough into it to realize how much they actually don't know about it. And I put my hands up to that too.
Yeah, so, exactly. This is what I wanted to say. Neither are we. I mean,
we're aware that we don't know. We're aware we don't know everything about it because it's just not realistic for us to be able to. We are not going to spend like 10 years getting a PhD and stuff or whatever.
Speaking of which, Steve, I think it's a great introduction to the things that we actually wanted to talk about. Right? Okay. Because yesterday, Team 3DMJ made a post with their client, Dirk Emrich. He's a German guy, so I wanted to actually pronounce it in an English kind of way, Dirk Emrich, but it's Dirk Emrich. Amazing physique. And it was a little bit controversial as well. People jumped onto the comment section and actually gave their views on the matter, and was everything around like being ready too early for a show. And this is something that we wanted to touch on this time because it was so controversial. And also I even had like 2 people reaching out to me. 2 people doesn't really sound like a lot. I know that other people who have a great following, such as you, Steve, I think that you're receiving way more comments around something like that. But this is something that I was asked to give my opinion on. And not just my opinion, but I was asked whether we could talk about it here on the podcast. Yeah. And I think that this is the perfect platform in doing so, because it also, of course, affects you, affects people that we are coaching and all that kind of stuff. And instead of jumping into the comment section there, maybe we can talk about it here.
Yeah, it's funny. You said that you had a couple of people reach out, and I was like, you know what? I think I only had one person reach out to me, and it was just AJ. AJ was just asking, AJ Morris, who commented on the post. He asked for my opinion on there, and so I just like voiced back to him exactly what I was thinking. We talked about it in private, and I think that's a good kind of thing to discuss. First of all, I think we both have the same thoughts on this in terms of, like, you know, it's essentially unsolicited feedback, right? They're posting up something that they're doing with the athlete, and they're pretty proud about it, and it's going like how they want it to be going, and they're kind of talking about that. And I guess when you do post on social media, you should expect that you can get any sort of comment. But unsolicited feedback is kind of like you post a form video, and then you get like 10 people saying like, oh, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. It's like, hang on, guys, like I didn't ask you. And like in some ways I can understand why people would want to feedback like that. But you said it really nicely in your message. You're just like, you feel like it's probably more appropriate to reach out to that person privately, especially because 3DMJ are obviously like professionals. They've been in this field for ages. They care about the athletes quite clearly. They're posting about an individual and posting on there and maybe saying something that could be classed as negative towards that. It could not look good to 3DMJ, which isn't great for their business potentially, which isn't great in a sense, and for their client and coach relationship, like it could harm that in some way, which I also think isn't great. And it could have just been, I guess for us, we're maybe overly polite and overly professional in that sense. You could say it like that, I guess, and overly uncontroversial. And I would say, I don't like controversy for that. And I would have probably, and if we were to discuss it, it's something that we would want to do kind of in a DM or something. It's now come out, and so we're discussing it here, which might seem like we're being hypocrites, but because the conversation's already happened, that discourse is already going. So I do think some people were like very professional and polite in the way they did it, but I still think like a DM wouldn't go amiss. I don't know how 3DMJ feel. They probably feel very confident in their I'm sure they feel very confident in what they're doing and their abilities. And I was very interested to see their response. I'm very interested to see their podcast on the topic too. But yeah, it felt kind of wrong to necessarily comment with saying anything like, I don't know, you're going to harm your athlete or something like that. Not that, I don't know if people specifically said something like that. I think maybe some people did. It just, I don't know. It's different to calling out just complete bullshit on the internet where someone is clearly like, I don't know, round backing a deadlift and doing way too much weight, and it's a PT like coaching them, like the form police is calling like a PT out for actually doing harm. I don't know if it's quite the same when it's 3DMJ, an evidence-based company who have taken hundreds, thousands of people to stage, and kind of effectively you kind of look at them as some of the best in the industry. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if you have more to say to that.
Yeah, I want to touch on several different aspects of the post itself, but we will get to that here in the discussion itself. I want to comment on the things that you brought up first and foremost about the post and about then the comments, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think I said it already to you, I even commented and deleted my comment. And even though I tried to be super, super objective and all, right, I basically said in the comment that I'm just trying to comment on the things that have been asked, of the question of is it good or bad to be ready too early? So I addressed that. And not specifically talking about Dirk, because Dirk was in it for itself, just the representation in that picture. They could have posted any other picture of any other athlete, right? So he was actually not up for debate. But of course, because it was the visual representation in that time, people took it as if the question is then like, is he ready too early or so, right? And that is something that I didn't really wanted to comment on. Then later in the comment though, I said, in the case of Dirk, I wish him all the best. Hope that he's having a successful season. I really hope that he's able to pull it off. And I really do hope that he has a smooth transition. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I also here want to be very transparent that I posted, but I found it also unsolicited and actually giving my opinion on the matter. And that's why I took it down as well, even though that I didn't really have any kind of clear statements for that situation itself. And even that I found inappropriate to comment on. So with that being said, when you're then going out and you are commenting on the person itself, you are pretending as if you have all of the information available to you as well. And I think when you're then going out and you are putting your views into that comment of what you deem appropriate and correct, that is self-righteous in my opinion. Because you think you know better in that situation, and you think that you have the recipe for success. And to be honest, the proof is in the pudding. Dirk, in that situation, he's looking freaking fantastic. Is it too early in my opinion? Just from the limited information that I have? Yeah. But that is with the very, very little information that I have available to me. And that's why you have to be super careful for what it is that you are actually putting out there and say, because these are your biases with little information. And that is not very good evidence to base an opinion on. And that's why I didn't even comment on him specifically, because I would find it absolutely inappropriate. I don't find this to be evidence-based. I find it to be a little bit arrogant even. And once again, self-righteous, because you think that you have the answer, when in reality, I think Alberto is working with him since like 2015 or 16. I don't think that he will put him in that position if they aren't both on the same page here and were aware of the consequences possibly and what that can mean. And also, once again, the proof is in the pudding. All of the other people, show me your athletes. Show me your kind of resume of how many people you took to stage as successfully as 3DMJ. Right? And at the same time, we can always then have probabilistic outcomes or terms here, where it's like, okay, he's super lean, but can he maybe pull it off? Sure. Probability may be low in your opinion, or maybe even from a very objective perspective, it may be low, but what if he can pull it off? What then? And what if he is winning all of the titles? Well, I mean, what then? Then you are the fool because you thought you have the answers, which turned out to be wrong. Right, so I think that there are so many aspects that you need to take into consideration before just jumping on it and giving and stating your opinion on a matter like this. And if you do, then try to make it or do it in such an objective manner and really be clear about that you lack context and information. And because of that, you're quite limited in the things that you actually can say.
Yeah, I think that's well said, actually. The context is, as ever, key. And yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. A perfect example is, I don't know, someone will post up like a meal that they're eating. Or it could be you're just eating a meal in the office or something, and maybe you have a Pop-Tart with it, and someone's like, oh, you shouldn't be eating that. That's going to make you gain fat. And it's like, well, in the context of my overall nutritional diet and everything, I'm pretty sure I'm not in a calorie surplus. I'm actually in a calorie deficit right now. So consuming this in that context, I'm definitely not going to be gaining fat. But you post up on social media or you're eating that one meal, someone might point at you and be like, no, you're going to gain fat if you eat that. It's like, no. So it's completely right in that we don't know the context. We don't know the athlete, how they respond to dieting. Like you said, the coach-client relationship, how long they've been kind of working together and kind of how much background they have. There's always outliers as well. Like that might on average look too early, but maybe for them, they know like this isn't too early for him. It's like, and you're completely right. Like, who are we to question that? Because we're not in the context of that coach-client relationship. And it can be, I hate to think that that damaged any kind of relationships or made people more stressed and nervous about it. But I guess that's kind of part of being on social media and being present. I also hope it doesn't put people off sharing, because asking questions is fine, but kind of like you said, like saying and as if you know better than someone, a good professional in their field, working with someone. I don't know. That doesn't feel right to me.
No, neither does it to me. And I think it's so wrong on so many different levels. And when you really think about it, take the time to really think about it, I think that the majority would come to the same conclusion. but I know where it's coming from because it's social media. You see a post and it's just taking you like one to two clicks to actually then state your opinion, which in the moment you have not even given it a true thought of what may go into it. It's just like, oh yeah, that's my initial thought. That's what I'm plugging in.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do this all the time. I don't know about you, Pascal, but I will look over many people's posts and I'll think of something in my head, but I very rarely actually say that thing because I don't have the requisite knowledge and background and context to be able to give a very good opinion. So I'm like, I'm going to look like I could just quite equally just look like a complete asshole if I comment this. Like, I don't know, it could be completely the right thing for them to be doing. That's where we're kind of coming from, I think, on that. But I think the discourse is good. The question of essentially, can you be ready too early is kind of the question there. I don't know if you want to start with that.
Yeah, and I think that there is a clear difference of what too early actually can be. Too early in the sense of like for your first show, or is it for the last show? Or what exactly do we mean by too early? Is it like, are we talking about 1 week too early? Are we talking about like months too early or so? I also think there's nuance to the question itself. And of course, we don't want to be that too nuanced where we are just questioning everything down to the atom in the universe or so. That is something that we, of course, don't need or want to do. But when it comes to the question of like, can you be too early? I think, yes, you can. However, when you are too early for the first show, I think it's probably not as damaging over the long term, physically speaking and also mentally speaking, as it would be when you're like thick skin lean. Basically the conditioning that you would have for Worlds or so, or for your final show of the season, and you're prepping for the first show. Then perhaps it may be a valid concern that to say that you are ready too early. And we've talked about it via voice message. I said, like, I think it's good to be early, but being too early is probably not a great idea. And the anecdote I can think of is just like showing up to an appointment. Right? Being a couple of minutes earlier is probably a good thing because you show respect and you can make sure that you are there on time. However, if you are showing up like hours in advance, what good does it do to you? Nothing. It will probably even stress you out more. It will tire you out because you just have to wait there and you can't really spend the time for other productive tasks. And I think that's the same when it comes to a prep as well, like one-to-one actually. When you're getting there too early, it's probably physically and mentally just like very demanding, and staying there for much, much longer can just like wear you out over the long term. And yeah, let's stay there first and then go over to the next topic, which would then be something like raising calories or so, because I think it's a different story and discussion in itself. What do you think about this, Steve?
Fast, efficient fat loss. Does that sound like music to your ears? The mini cut movement might just be for you. Mini cuts are like robbing the fat bank. You want to get in and out with as much fat as possible. In a short period of time, you could easily look to lose 6 to 12 pounds of fat. The mini cut movement is excellent. There's group support for extra accountability and also expert help within the group. We have educational videos to keep you on track along the way, and you get all your nutrition and training customized and individualized for you. So if that sounds of interest, get involved with the mini cut movement. I love that analogy. It's just super simple and makes complete sense. There is a sweet spot, I think we're kind of saying, where because at 3DMJ we're essentially saying this is so de-stressing being like in such good condition so far out, but equally people are like, being in that condition that far out is super fucking stressful. Like a lot of people have been there when you have striated glutes. It can be really stressful. Again, they're supposing that the way they felt at that time is the way that client feels, and that's not right. But they still have a point in that. I think a lot of people that lean that far out probably do feel kind of not great. So there is that sweet spot. Like you said, if you get too ready for your appointment, too ready for your show, it's just, you're going to be like on your phone, like fucking hell, like why am I here so early? I've got all this other stuff to do, but I have to just sit here and wait for this thing. And it's just a lot of stress. Whereas if you're like don't know, trying to run for like the minute to get there in time and you're sprinting when really you should be like chilling out because you need to be calm. And it's like, I don't know, it could be an interview, for example. Yeah. You're not going to do very well in the interview when you've like sprinted there and you're sweaty and like really flustered. And equally, like that's a horrible position to be in when you're late for a show. So there is that kind of like sweet spot to timing, getting ready, which I think is, really nicely described with that analogy. And it makes it really simple for people to understand.
And that is not easy. I want people to understand this. You as a coach and also even the athlete, right? You are always having estimates of when the person can be ready. But each and every single prep is different. It can be that the person is actually losing fat super efficiently and voila, they are already quite lean. And you're thinking like, holy shit, actually that was much, much quicker than I expected. What do you want to do? Actually really just pull back the entire time or actually go there, right? And that is a question that every coach and athlete has to then decide for themselves of how much they are willing to push and how much they are willing then to stay in that position. And I think it's a calculated decision that every athlete and also coach is doing. I don't think that this happened by accident, where they just like woke up one day and Dirk was so freaking shredded. I think it was a calculated decision. And that brings me to another kind of anecdote of like, or transition over to something like the financial world where traders, they are making calculated decisions of like risk return, where they are actually going into an investment where the reward is much, much higher than the risk itself, but still there is a risk to it, right? And they are making calculated decisions, and it could also go the other way. The same applies here. I don't think that they had no plan and actually just dialed it down, and all of a sudden he was so shredded that, oh shit, what should we do? Let's just say that we wanted to be ready early, right? Just to justify it. No, I think it was very much calculated, and I don't think that they would have pushed Dirk to that position if he didn't feel good in his in relative terms, of course, right? If he didn't feel good where he is at right now. Because you said it rightly so yourself, just because other people may have had a horrendous time being even much, much fatter than he is, that doesn't mean that he needs to be feeling that way. And you are a perfect example now, and we even talked about it here today in the voice message, that the more advanced you get with dieting, the easier it seems to become. And right now you are 9 weeks out, or 8 weeks out now from it.
Less. When this comes out, it'll be 6.
6 weeks out from your first show. Like, just let that sink for a moment. And you don't seem as if you are deep in a prep.
No, I feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people could argue it's because you don't look like this guy.
Sure.
So you're not lean enough.
Absolutely.
But I have my own timelines and I've planned out my own prep. It's equally, I posted a shot a while ago where I had COVID and I posted up my physique shots. I said how far out I was. And someone commented on there being like, this is why I think longer preps are more ideal because then you can deal with these things, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, dude, I've got this completely covered. Do you even know me? Like, I've been doing this for years. I have this planned. I'm all good. Like, it's that kind of unsolicited, like almost a negative, like, people want this to be wrong. Whereas you almost want to encourage and be inquisitive, like, why is this right? Like, why is this working in this situation? Because I see it so many times it doesn't work. So yeah, I think it's interesting to me because I guess if I think about 3DMJ and their approach, just like if I was examining that again, I don't know the context, but they are more in favor of those longer preps and more time. And I wonder if, I guess some people might say, couldn't you have done what you did in a shorter period of time? Rather than losing at whatever pace you were losing at, couldn't you have actually doubled that? And I guess that's the question. But again, you can't really delve into that too much because you don't know that person. He might do much better losing at a slower rate. Whereas me, like I've been dieting and it's come off super efficiently, super fine. I don't want, like for me, in and out is like, that's just feels way better to me versus I don't need to be dragging this out for ages and ages and ages. That will feel worse. Whereas someone could be the opposite way round. I think that maybe is where people are coming from. And I think most people, especially like AJ, for example, who commented there, Andrew, they're coming from a good place completely. I think they want the best for the person. They're trying to understand should I be doing, like, why is your mindset different to mine? Both professionals care for the athletes, want the best for them. And there is, I guess, the concern around like health. And you kind of spoke about, you hope that his transition out is like a good one, and you hope he pulls it off, because when you are playing with fire in a sense, and we've talked about it, that analogy you brought up ages ago is great, where you get to a certain point in a contest prep where you're on fire. Striated glutes, especially from the rear, you're probably on fire, I would imagine, in most cases. So how long can you kind of hold being on fire? Because you're burning no matter what. It doesn't matter if you put in refeeds, diet slower, you're still slowly burning. So you just have to be careful with how long can you hold until you completely burn out, and kind of you sacrifice muscle groups, you look flatter, you look stringy, and then now you're like, maybe that was too far. That's kind of, I guess, the place that they're coming from, which I can understand, where people like sacrifice everything for condition, and they can ultimately sacrifice the best stage look by just bringing something kind of small and tired and not ultimately the best look for what, a couple of pounds and a couple more lines in the glutes. That can the judges even see that much detail? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know if that brought up any thoughts for you.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point in that you want to be ready when it counts, because you don't get any kind of extra points when you're ready 4 weeks out, look absolutely amazing, and it just wears you down over the next 4 weeks, and you actually end up looking worse or so. And then being in that state where you're on fire can have long-term consequences, because the longer you're on fire for, the more time your body needs to recover. And really think about it literally in the sense of like being on fire. The longer you're on fire for, the more damage it does to your skin. And the kind of same goes for bodybuilding prep. When you are in those lean levels of leanness, the longer you are in those territories, the more it wears on you mentally and also physically speaking. And that brings me to the other point that I want to talk about, because they are currently eating their way into the show. And whether this is then beneficial or not, I think in it for itself, there's probably, once again, it falls back to being ready early. It's probably a good idea. Being ready too early, I don't think is a good idea, in my opinion, in general, though. With that being said, eating then your way into a show can be a good idea, but I don't think that this reverses any of the negative consequences by a big or huge amount. Sure, it may give the person a temporary relief, like physically speaking. But the thing is, what every competitor is saying is there will come a point where no matter how much food it is that you're ingesting, you will always feel hungry. And only because you're eating more doesn't mean that your body is in a state of recovery. And we all know that it is more so body fat dependent. So as long as you're not increasing your body fat percentages, you are still on fire. It's as if you are just like trickling water on your body when you are on fire. It doesn't really do much. Maybe it pours a little bit more on your head and it gives you a temporary relief on your head, but in itself, it still fucking hurts, right? As long as you're not jumping into the water, and that is the straight analogy to increasing your body fat percentages, you will still suffer more so, and you will still be in that state. Maybe the perception of pain is mildly reduced, but the time where the body is under stress is, I think, not really reduced, because the body is still in that state.
Yeah. And I mean, the perfect kind of rationalization for the recovery diet, which 3DMJ greatly did. And again, this is just showing how much they care about the athlete's health, because they came through with the recovery diet, which was essentially a revelation for natural bodybuilding, in a sense of like everyone was doing this reverse diet of trickling things up. And I know people have been through these reverse diets for months and they have been shredded. And it's like they're eating, I had a client, he was eating like, 3,000 to 4,000 calories at like 5% body fat. He looked incredible, but he said he felt really bad. And his recovery past that took ages. So this is the exact reason people are like, reverse diets, when you're that lean, makes no sense. You need to get to a healthy body fat and then like rush that fat on basically in like 6 to 10 weeks or something, gain 5% of your body fat back or something. So you're in a healthy position again, because like you said, body fat is so important. So yeah, I would have thought 3DMJ are definitely like more than aware of that, seeing as that was their baby, which is fantastic and something we'll use. But like you said, you kind of get to this point of, if you're in and about ready, you have what Dr. Joe talks about as this like metabolic building phase, which is kind of that reverse diet where you can look better, but how you probably feel marginally better, but still a bit shit, because you're at that point where your body fat levels are just too low. Yeah. And we've kind of talked about it, maybe a month, maybe up to 2 for some people, where they can ride this kind of metabolic building phase out. But I can't imagine many people, everyone talks about it. Stage lean is not a sustainable level of leanness. Like, how long can you realistically ride out that level of leanness? Month or so.
That's why if we are then reading something like the post where they talked about reducing the stress by eating their way into the show, we have to be careful not to strawman that sentence or argument in thinking that what they meant is that they are reducing the stress by a significant amount. Perhaps they really meant that in comparison to like continuing to cut in that time frame, it's a stress relief. Still, it implies that they are highly stressed. Could be that this is what they actually then try to say, and that is where we have to give them the benefit of a doubt. And if we want to know more, actually ask them, instead of just assuming that, all right, so you're saying that this is not stressful? No, that's not what we are saying. That is straw manning things, right? And that is something that people should be in my opinion, should be very careful with doing, and just making assumptions based on the things that they are reading.
Yeah, I think at least the perspective, I'm pretty sure Andrew Chappelle, who's been on the podcast, really good guy, the perspective he's coming from, I know he's done a post before where people get obsessed about like shredded glutes and striated glutes. And it's like diet down at all costs to get striated glutes. If you don't have striated glutes, you're basically not a competitive bodybuilder. And he's like, you might look better on stage without striated glutes overall, because you just present an overall better physique and better package. It's not all conditioning. There are other elements to bodybuilding. And yeah, I hate for coaches to just think, right, you want to do like male bodybuilding, it's all about dieting and getting you as lean as possible. So we're just going to push. If you're ready early, who gives a crap? That's fine. We're just trying to get you as lean as possible. I think that's kind of where they're coming from. Like, they're worried that people just dig themselves into a big hole that takes a long time to recover from. And so there is that, like we've talked about, we try and really plan out a prep. So it's as long as necessary, but no longer. Because if you just have weeks where you're like, oh, we're losing it, I don't know, you're losing it 0.25% for like 2 months. Do you really need to lose that slow for 2 whole months or 4 months? Like some people might stretch it out to. It's like, maybe not. So yeah, it's just having that foresight and that planning, because there is a bit of a sweet spot to try and achieve.
No, absolutely. What I want to just feel a need in mentioning is it is freaking unimportant who made that post and who commented. We are not specifically talking about the people who posted that or the people who commented or so, right? And specifically, it is about the statements and everything that we are talking about. I want to make it very clear. I respect Team 3DMJ highly, so it is completely unimportant who made that post. It could have been, I don't know, your mama. Didn't really care about it either. So I just want to make it very clear so that people realize that this is not a discussion of bashing other people's opinions or methodologies. It's just an open discussion about what we may deem appropriate in the sense of like discussions, but also in the sense of like, bringing people early to stage or not so early to stage. Right? Yeah. So
it's, the analogy I always like for like trying to get that sweet spot is, do you know, I can't remember what it's called, but I think it might be in the Olympics where they like, it's like it's not on like an ice sheet, but they like, it's like a ball type of thing and they like shuffle it forward. And then there's like 2 people by it and they're removing
curling,
whatever, curling maybe. Yeah. and they can like speed up how fast it's moving towards the target, or they can slow it down, and like it's trying to perfectly remove and like lose a fast enough pace so you get to the kind of target, but not too fast that you go all the way past it. And so you're like, so like for me, for example, great example is like maybe I was going like looking as if I kept up this pace, I was going to go past it. So I've just like plugged in a pause through the diet break, and then I'm going to go again. And as I get closer, I can be more careful about, okay, I'm not quite there. I need to push a bit more. And as you get closer and closer, you know how fast you need to push towards that kind of ultimate end goal. And for a first-time competitor, that's hard, and you want to give yourself more time. Yeah. But as you get more experience, you kind of know that journey. So yeah, I always like that analogy because I'm like, yeah, it works. Kind of, that's how we're kind of trying to play it.
What a lot of the discussion around this actually reminded me about is like professional sports. When there's a professional player, he's doing this for a living, and then there are fans. When that team or that, I don't know, that athlete is actually losing, then the people behind the television have lots of things to say of how the person could have done it better. But they are the top of their sport, right? And when you look at a physique like Dirk, for example, it's freaking amazing. I would love to actually be able to look that way once in my entire life, right? And I probably never will be able to get there. So you have to give that person, and both Alberto and Dirk, credit for the amazing work that they've done so far. And all that you can then do is wish them all the best moving forward. And they are going to be competitors of some of my athletes. So
are they doing the WMBF UK? I feel like he is.
Could be. And also, I think he's doing probably also the GNBF as well.
Arne will be there as well.
Yeah, and one of my athletes as well. Oh, no, maybe two even. Maybe two. Depends on then the time, once again. And still, I think that bodybuilding should be a sport because it's such a selfish one. But at the same time, because it's a selfish one, you don't have to actually be the arsehole against other competitors. You should have a good time because you want each and every one is doing it for yourself, basically. And when there are competitors, yeah, great, but we are talking about natural bodybuilding. There's not that much to get, so to speak, other than maybe a pat on the back from people that you want to basically just like impress your peers.
Yeah.
That's what many people want. And they want to get the appreciation and also just the acknowledgement from people around them. And that can be important, of course. Human psychology is a funny thing. But in that regard, because of this, because it's not that your life depends on it, it's not that your career depends on it, we should actually enjoy every single aspect of it, look at physiques like this, and be appreciative of the fact that there are people like that out there, and be like, maybe it wouldn't have been the way I would have treated that prep, but freaking amazing the way that you look, and now keep that. Keep that as best as you can. And then once you come out of the prep, stay healthy. Can you please do that for me? That's the spirit that I would like to see more often, to be honest. Yeah. And I know that I'm absolutely naive in that way of thinking, but still I can wish for these things and I can hope for these things, right? Only because I know that there are wars in the world doesn't mean that I can't think of people connecting and having a good time together and helping each other out.
I should post up like, I don't know, change all my photos and my updates now to like my 2017 prep photos and just start posting those up to play mind games with everyone. Yeah. So then when they come to stage, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to thrash Steve because he looks skinny as hell. And I'm like, yeah, got about 10 pounds more muscle here or something. No,
actually, that's a very, very good idea. Eh?
It's like I think you said it. It's like what Arnie used to do, like whispering in like people's ears, like you in your off season, like, oh, you're competing today. Oh shit, I didn't realize.
Exactly. Oh, you already went into your gaining phase now. Wow, something like that.
But I actually even said it to you. It's so interesting doing bodybuilding with social media because obviously you follow lots of people and people put up like how far out they are from shows. And like some people I'm like for example, this example, I'm like, oh shit, you look really ready early. And then I'll look at someone the same number of weeks out as this guy. And I'm like, don't you need double that time? It's just like everyone's in like different situations and it's just a journey at the end of the day and you're trying to do your best. So Obviously,
Sure.
this is how, 3DMJ earn their money. We earn our living for a large extent. So we're trying to do it to our best. But a lot of people just do it because they just want to have fun and enjoy it, and everyone responds differently.
And one more thing that I want to mention and bring up is an example of Brett Freeman. I can't really recall what he looked like at his first show. Like, what was it? Is it already 2 years ago? I think it was, right?
Maybe.
Last year, because of COVID, he didn't compete.
Yeah, it'd be 2.
2 years ago. I can't really recall what he would look like for his first show. But his last show, he looked absolutely freaking insane. His conditioning was just like nuts. Literally speaking, when you saw him from the rear.
Yeah, walnuts.
Yeah. And perhaps this is exactly what they are trying to accomplish as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you want to get to those stages, those last couple of pounds will be absolute horror. And it will take you perhaps even a long time to get there. Just because each and every single pound you're fighting for is coming off so stubbornly. And perhaps this is what they're aiming for. And that's also, once again, adding to what we've already talked about, that we just lack the context and information.
Yeah. And it's like some people can do that very successfully, like Brett. Like, actually, for him, maybe sacrificing a little bit of muscle for that crazy conditioning he can achieve is worth it. Whereas for some other competitors who, whatever they do, they keep losing. It's like, you're getting smaller. You're not actually getting more conditioned here. Your glutes aren't looking more striated. Maybe they don't have the muscle mass or the genetics. There must be a genetic component somewhat to getting that crazy lean.
Yeah.
So
I think it may be some. That's just my thought, of course. Of course, it's a genetics thing of your pain tolerance. I could see that from the birth even already, but also maybe an epigenetic thing that when you've grown up in an environment where you had to undergo like very, very painful and stressful situations over a long period of time, I could imagine that those individuals, they are more prone to withstand very, very, very hard and stressful times. As the one who always grew up in an environment that was very, like, I don't know, white glove style. Well, what is it called? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When someone was touching you always with gloves, you were always well cared about, all that kind of stuff. I even see myself as an example. I think that if I had to go through very stressful times, I think someone who was growing up in extreme conditions, I can't really think of an example, but maybe different country or so, in very, very, very harsh environments in the beginning. They always had to fight even for survival in the first initial years. I think that they are probably able to withstand stress much, much better than we ever can.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a genetic component at all to how different bodies respond to stress. I'm just wondering if, like, I don't know, someone's body, like, they just hold on to tons of, like, because of the cortisol and the associated water retention, they just look blurry and blurrier as they get more stressed.
It has to, because in it for itself, what the human body is, when we really want to be simplistic, is a computer and just a machine. So up here is a computer with neurological pathways, but it's just electrical signals that are being sent back and forth, basically. And then the entire other thing is just like a machine that is working on different mechanisms that are then also run with hormones. Of course, it's a very, very complex system, but it's all then based off of certain mechanisms in the body. So basically, when it comes to these kind of genetic things, I can't help but think that there must be something to it, right? Because when you just think about it pragmatically speaking of what the human body is and also the brain is, it must be. It must be.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Do we have anything else on this topic? We have 10 minutes. I think all I would want to say is, again, to reiterate, hopefully we made it clear enough, respect everyone at 3DMJ. AJ, Andrew, I know I brought up their names. Like, I respect both those individuals to a large extent. I know they have a lot of experience as well. And everyone involved, like, no hard feelings to like the comments. We're just giving our opinion on the subject. And hopefully we gave some interesting insights into kind of our views on the matter. And yeah, that's what I have to say on that, really.
Yeah. For me personally, it's the same. I just want to also mention that I don't want to come across also here self-righteous, because that would be quite hypocritical if I'm saying like, okay, people who are commenting are self-righteous, and because I deleted my comment, that could be seen as something like a self-righteous act as well, because I see myself morally superior or so, which isn't the case. And the things that we discussed here aren't supposed to be that way. For me personally, it also means that as long as I haven't been able to achieve those results with either myself or with anyone else, I hold myself back in actually making bold statements of how it's done.
You have to be careful in 2021. It's like everything you say could be taken wrong or right, or like you could be flipped. It's kind of scary, actually. I was thinking that the other day. I was like, hey, I saw someone, I don't know, and they were like disagreeing with some way or some post that someone did. And I was like, oh, I posted that the other day. I didn't think that was the wrong thing to post. Oh,
man, you just have to. I told you about it at one time. I was re-watching the Dave Chappelle show. The first season came out, I think, in 2002 or 1 or something like that. Man, and there are already jokes in there that you couldn't bring those nowadays, right? And that is only like 20 years ago. And then also like, what is it called in English? Is it like the naked cannon? The naked gun with Leslie Nielsen. Man, there are also jokes in there where you're just like, oh boy. And I just watch old comedy movies and also shows, and then you're just like, holy shit, hey, if people were to say that nowadays, they would immediately be cancelled due to cancel culture, like immediately. And I also think in it for itself, that's not good either.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's actually funny. You even watch old episodes of like Friends, and they're pretty like sexist and racist in some of those episodes. You're just like, oh, that's so weird. This feels like a really like, everyone's fond of this show, but there was probably people that really weren't fond of some of those jokes.
Well, mate, it was just a different time, right?
Yeah.
That's also, I mean, time progresses, and also we as a society evolve. We may think that it's maybe for the worse at times, but that is just because we have grown up with different values and a different kind of environment. Kind of typical golden age fallacy. So basically, back then everything was better because our identity was built in our teens and also 20s. Right? And everything that follows is always looking a little bit like, and the older we become, the more of a hard time we have in identifying with new trends and with societal changes.
Yeah, I can even find myself with some of the new stuff. I'm like,
me too.
I just like, am I behind the times? This just seems like too out there.
Man, I just need to go on social media. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? I hate this. And then I switch it off instead of going there and comment.
I guess in the last few minutes, I'm going to ask, how's the diet going? When does it end? Give people.
The diet is going well. We didn't even talk about it. I was sick. The entire family was sick. I just tried to be very concise. We were at home, influenza. Everyone was at home, on the couch. Some were even on the toilet. Not me, though. I was just feeling a grumbling sensation in my stomach. And I was feeling very unwell, though. I was actually feeling as if I have to vomit and have to go to the toilet, but it never really came. The others weren't as lucky. And it's so... That is such a awful thing to see your baby son or like a small child like vomiting a couple of times. It's so scary. And when they then also have like fever, it's just like, holy shit, I need to call the ambulance. But that is just like being a helicopter dad.
I can see that.
Yeah, and during that time, of course, I lost a little bit my appetite. which then helped for the diet here the last couple of days. I wasn't really feeling hungry at all, so I needed to always kind of force feed myself. So that helped with the diet, that's for sure. So if you really want to get a diet hack the next time, don't look for appetite suppressants, just get the influenza virus and then you're just knocked out for a couple of days. Now sitting at around 78.3. So I'm getting close to the predicted weight of around 77 kilograms, as we already discussed a couple of weeks back, where I said like, okay, now it's back to dieting, and I'm predicting that by the time of the holiday, when I kind of get my shit together here and actually just like be very, very committed, then I will make it to 77 kilograms, and yeah, couple of grams away from that, and then I'll be there. So yeah, that's great actually.
I want to know the plan post 70, like post holiday, post 77 kilos. What are you thinking?
I even said to you, like, because it has been such a smooth ride so far, like very, very smooth ride, I was even considering why not even go down further, because I don't feel any kind of negative adaptations as of yet. And I think that I've always been too fat overall anyway. So yeah, I think I will continue, to be honest.
And that will be like new territory for you, right? Like won't have been that lean before.
I haven't been under 75 kilograms since 2017 when I did my when I've been at your place actually. I think I came back from London when I visited you in 2017, and I weighed in at 75 kilograms. I think it was. I would have to look back at my data, but I haven't been that low in scale weight reading since a very long time, and that was just shortly touching it. After that, I stopped the contest prep and then reversed very quickly again. So if I can go down there, it would be the first time since, I don't even know, since 2013 or so, since I've been that low in body weight.
You can't have been, if you're that lean, I'm just trying to remember how lean you were. I'm just thinking you must be in like less than 5 kilos of stage weight.
I don't know.
Or
I don't know. With the
5.
conditioning nowadays, I'm always like, I don't know. Whenever I'm now at the gym, at the new gym, right? There's a window where very good lighting is coming in, but it's natural lighting, right? Where it's not just coming from above. And whenever I'm then standing there in front of the mirror and I flex my legs, for example, because they are the most defined for me anyway, I'm always actually very, very impressed and happy with the level of leanness that I'm able to hold already in the lower extremities. Even I've like I posted one picture where already kind of a line in my glutes is showing. Of course, not the details or so, but just like line, right? And this is a conditioning. So I'm quite happy with how things are going at the moment and the way I look overall. But once again, my upper body has always been the soft part for me. Especially the front side, and that is so discouraging, like, because that is the thing that you always see.
Yeah.
All right. So you see yourself in the mirror, and the soft side, the front side looks soft, and that is so disheartening. Actually, it really is. Yeah. And the back doesn't even look bad at all. Of course, there's still a lot of weight to be lost if you really want to get to those very, very lean levels, especially the upper back, the upper body. That's for sure. So yeah, but I mean, when I'm now sitting at around 78 kilograms, if I were to go down to below 75 kilograms, like those additional 3 to 4 kilograms will make a much bigger difference than the previous 6, 7, 8 kilograms even.
And I think so long as you're feeling pretty decent, like there's no harm in doing it, because it's not like you need to do a recovery diet.
Nope.
You just bought yourself a ton of time massing, and also like I said to you, when you get that lean, you get a really good insight into what your stage weight's going to be, because you're getting close to that spot and you're like, oh, I reckon I could lose this much, and I'd be very much in the realm of stage. And
I hate to admit it, but perhaps, so I take a look at it from two perspectives. Either it's just due to unfavorable body fat distribution and also my loose skin that I may perceive that I'm fatter than I actually am, or what I think may be the case, but once again, I'm very emotionally invested when I'm looking at myself, of course, and this is something that I can't really lay off, even if I'm trying. So it could be that when I'm looking at myself and I see myself and I feel fat, especially in the upper body, that there may be some truth to it. And that I've always stayed in a higher body fat percentage than I wanted to or intended to, and thought that I am leaner than I am, because that is quite a common phenomenon. So that's why I want to actually get lower, see how I feel, because that could be an indicator of me always having been on the high side of the body fat spectrum without actually needing to be up there.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, if you can gain and feel just as good at a leaner body fat, that's good from a like psychological point of view. Like It's more enjoyable, maybe healthier, and then also as a competitor, that's always a better place to be. So you don't have to do like, I don't know, a double pump prep or a really long prep, which wouldn't be fun. It excites me because I know how much you want to eventually compete, and everything I've seen from you this diet phase is giving me like the kind of like, he's in a position where this is getting more and more possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I would love to see how everything looks when the fat around here, the triceps area is gone, or delta tricep area is gone. How it looks, or what it looks like when the majority of fat deposits around the midsection are gone, and especially like the chest. Because of the loose skin, that is a very, very disheartening area for me. Because whenever I, for example, lean over, it's kind of like Eiffel Towers that just hang down on your chest. And I considered in the past of actually getting surgeries for something like the loose skin around my stomach section, because it always is like a proper muffin top, even though that I'm not carrying as much fat or so, right? So I have someone like Katie beside me, and I know what fat feels like, right? And I don't carry as much fat around the midsection, but it looks like it because the skin is just hanging over the pants, and it's not looking good. But at the same time, having surgery for skin, so skin removal and kind of stretching it, is first and foremost freaking expensive, and secondarily leaves you with 2 nasty scars. However, around the chest, that's not the case, because around the chest, I think that they are they are removing the nipples, I think. They are taking the skin away from the nipples, and then they are putting it up on the chest again. If I know now, or I could be entirely wrong, but I think that's how they are doing it. And that way you're not left with kind of scars here or so, right? Because they stretched it or so. And that is still something I consider to the day, since years already. But it's freaking expensive. And also you have to rest for like 6 weeks afterwards before you can do any kind of physical activity. And I don't know whether I'm willing to do that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's only something you can answer. And I always think with those sort of procedures, I think if it brings you, like everyone, like you love to say, oh, you should just love your body for what it is and what it gives you. But if doing such a thing would just suddenly make you feel that much better about yourself, I mean, I'm all for it, to be honest.
Totally. Man, I stopped now bragging about me because I know that sometimes that can be quite, I don't know, annoying for people to listen to, hearing me complain about those kind of things. But I've seen that girl. I don't know if I even said that in the past, and she definitely doesn't listen. And also at the same time, no one knows who that is. So it doesn't really matter. But back then I was dating a girl. She was into sports as well. And she has been going through cyclical phases of like cutting and gaining. The gaining was more like not really intentional, right? But that typical yo-yo dieting. And she was dieting away her breasts. And that was, I know how that sounds, but that is also how she perceived things. She was very, very unhappy with her breasts, up to the point where she was so embarrassed to show them, right? Because if you've never seen anything like that, you won't believe it, because it was really just like breast skin just hanging down. But really just like skin. And that I can definitely see why someone would be getting some surgery to get that fixed. Because especially in a day and age where we are so bombarded by like perfect physiques and stuff like that, that can really wear you down, like mentally speaking. And we have to acknowledge that the next up and coming generations, they are more and more so confronted with those body images. That's why, statistically speaking, you see more and more younger people getting surgery of like breast implants, fixed noses. And it's not just like women, but also men. Yeah. And the age is actually decreasing.
Calf inserts.
Really?
It's a thing, yeah.
All
apparently.
Right. Jared Feather.
I'm calling him out now.
But yeah, it's many people see it as concerning, but maybe you have to be open for the possibility that this is also just how we as humans evolve at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely circumstances where it's like even if they had whatever done, it's not going to actually improve things. But I think in circumstances like you mentioned and here, like when people have really thought it through, I think there's definitely a case for it. Oh. But you could do a whole podcast on this topic, couldn't you?
If I were to go down that road, I will let you know. That's for sure. So that you can look at my breasts, the surgeon, what's it called? The operated breasts, without implants though.
You could just get some little chest implants.
So that you get an Arnold chest or so.
Yeah. Should we call it there?
Yeah, absolutely. So guys yeah, go ahead, see. It's your turn.
Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully this has been insightful, valuable, interesting. Any comments, please do comment. We will get to a Q&A at some point. We've been on just a run of not doing Q&As. Let us know as well how much you like Q&A versus just us chit-chatting. I suppose our Q&As kind of turn into that a little bit as well. And if you have questions, if we get loads in the comments in this podcast, then we will definitely be like, they definitely want their questions answered. I do have a list of some that need to be answered at some point. So I'll just add them to that list if they get put there. Yeah. And thanks for tuning in and listening to us blab on about various topics.
Thanks, guys. And just very, very quickly, the Minicut movement has now opened its doors for the enrollment. We are going to start on the 16th of August, is where we are then starting the group coaching overall. So up until then, you have time to sign up for the Minicut movement. We have limited spaces though. So if you're interested, head over to revivestronger.com/Minicut movement and sign up there.
And does it, with the Minicut, they have a week of introduction before it kicks off properly, isn't it?
Exactly. So, this is the week where we're then actually preparing then the spreadsheet together. So, I mean, you actually plug in the numbers and all that kind of stuff, but we are already doing a live Zoom call. We then kind of ask questions of the program, etc., etc. And that is the preparatory week, so to speak, so that you're setting yourself up for a successful Minicut. And also in that week, we're treating it such as a deload so that you actually dissipate most of the accumulated fatigue so that you're then ready for those. Basically, it's like 8 weeks overall, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, so we make sure we set you up for success and then exit you for future success as well. It's not just a kind of plunge you into the deep end and then hope that you swim out. We kind of really thought about this. So yeah, hopefully we fill up those 20 spots and we get lots of people, lots of fat loss and set them up for lots of good gains. And I think this is a good time if you want to get some fat loss out of the way before Christmas, because I know it's like summer in Europe, but Christmas is coming. And from that date for 8 weeks and then back into things, then you can just master out all the winter period as well, which is ideal, right? So get in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for listening. And next week, we're talking mostly then about Steve again, so that we are getting an update on his prep as well. All right. So guys, thank you very much as always for tuning in. And we guess we will speak to another very soon. Cheers.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years. Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.